Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fall MOOCs. This is the convention preview season. We're going to spend a little bit of time for the next 4 weeks leading up to our convention with a few people that will be at our convention presenting this year. I'm Todd Bedard, the past president of PSAHPERD. Jessica Piconi-Cook, our co-host usually on the MOOCs, is unavailable tonight, but will be joining me this season with many of our guests. And Brian Robinson is going to sit this one out. We're going to do some curriculum stuff in December and some other stuff in the spring that he'll be rejoining us for, hopefully. Tonight we have a great guest with us tonight. His name is Chance Condran. He came from Halifax area school over to the Cumberland Valley School District. We'll talk to him a little bit about that. But before we do, I'll just let him take over. He'll be doing 2 sessions this year at convention. And we'll talk about those. He and I will get in depth with those at least a little bit tonight. And Chance, if you just take a few minutes and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Chance Condran. This is my 10th year of teaching. As Todd said, I was previously at Halifax Area School District, which is a really small school district, just about 30 minutes north of Harrisburg. And I just recently made the transition to Cumberland Valley School District for this school year. In addition to that, I'm currently in the process of trying to create a local PSAHPERD association in our Cumberland, Dauphin, New York County areas. So we're trying to get some people together to network and hopefully eventually have some professional development opportunities as well. So just trying to get everybody to grow and get together and have some fun with everybody who likes to do the same thing.
Awesome, Chance. Well, thanks for being with us tonight, and we're glad to spend a little bit of time with you tonight talking about elementary phys ed. That was one of the unique things that I felt like, you always look to pull some people from different levels of phys ed. And you mentioned that you transitioned to a new school district this summer. And that's something I think that some of us do, but we often don't get to talk about. I mean, everybody has their own individual why, which we won't necessarily get into. But can you talk a little bit about what the transition was like? What are some things that you thought happened, and maybe some things that you're going, oh my gosh, this happened and I wasn't ready for it, and what did you do to overcome that? And then finally, like, what advice would you have for other professionals who are considering doing this, some things that maybe you learned through the process?
Sure. So the biggest transition for me, the biggest change was just the size of the district, because I went from being the only elementary phys ed teacher for the whole entire district to being one of, I believe, we had like 7 or 8 elementary phys ed teachers. So that in itself was a big change. I think ultimately, the biggest change is I spent the past 9 years at one district, and you created those relationships with all of those students and the staff. And when you decide that you want to make that change, that's one of the things that kind of tugs at your heart a little bit. Like, do I want to go or not? You've really bonded with all those people. So I eventually did make the change. Unfortunately, I didn't find out until the summer. So I didn't get to say a proper goodbye to my students, which was a little unfortunate. But it kind of is, I don't know, I guess you could say a big kick to your ego, because you go from being, like a celebrity. Elementary phys ed teachers often like the celebrity at your school districts. And so you go from being that celebrity, that person that everybody loves, to being this brand new person, and the kids are looking at you like, who's that guy? So that was a big change. And relationships take time. And so that's kind of the biggest thing that I'm doing right now, is trying to build those relationships with those students, and not only with the students, but the staff, the parents. The person I took over for, she was an excellent phys ed teacher. She moved into an administrative role, so it's kind of big shoes to fill. You have to deal with kids saying, we didn't do it that way before. And you're going to have to, teach them your way of doing it, but you can't change up too many things. You can't go into the situation going gung-ho, wanting to change every single thing. So I think one piece of advice would kind of be just sit back a little bit and just kind of learn the dynamics of your school, learn the dynamics of your department if you have more than one elementary health and phys ed teacher. Still be willing to share ideas and certainly be involved, but you don't want to go overboard right away, because you need to build that the relationships. You need to build that trust and respect with those colleagues. Um, another,
Can I dig into that
yeah,
relationship with you for a minute? Last season on the MOOC we built that around Joe Sanfilippo, our keynote speaker's book Hacking Leadership, and he talked about being deliberate in creating your relationships. And Joe always says, like, we create relationships in 30-second increments. There's no such thing as a neutral interaction. It's either good or bad. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing in a deliberate way to build those relationships, first with kids, but then also with staff as well?
yeah. I mean, with the kids, it's getting to know their interests. If you see them wearing a specific shirt or have the sports team on it, interacting with that. At the end of the day, I have bus duty, so I pretty much get to see every kid leave. So I get to see bye to every kid. I see kids walking in the hallway, talk to them, have a little chat with them. So it's just like the little things, showing them that you care goes a long way. And then the same thing with staff, like, is just get to know them. We had a kind of a back to school social at a local brewery, so I went to that, and it was kind of a nice way to get to know some of the teachers before the school year started. Like you said, it's not going to happen instantly. It takes a lot of time. So I'm still working at it because I have like over 500 kids to learn new names. That's one thing that's been a challenge too, is names, because I used to only have to learn one new set of names a year with the kindergarten students. Now it's just 500. So that's been a little bit of a struggle too.
So when you went to the brewery, being the new guy, did they make you pay?
No, they didn't. They did not make me pay.
All right, well, that's good. At least you didn't. There's no rookie hazing going on. Then that's a good thing.
No.
So, Chance, like, unlike many of the guests that we have on the show, I actually have gotten a chance to see you in action, and I must say it's quite magnificent. You're an excellent teacher, and you really plan some great lessons. And if you don't follow Chance on Twitter, definitely check him out on Twitter, because he posts some activities that are going on in his classroom that are pretty fantastic. I saw one that looked like vacuum cleaners that at some point I'm going to sit and talk to you about, maybe not tonight, but at some point, because that looked really cool and I'd like to know more about that. But one of the things that stuck out to me was when we had talked initially, is you talk about how you take attendance and you use clickers. And so that was impressive. So if you could dig into that a little bit. And then the other thing that always impressed me, and this is something I think young teachers especially need to listen to, is you're very impeccably planned with your transitions. Moving from one activity, from a warm up to a skill base, or from a skill base to a culminating, or from low organized game to larger game, or whatever it is. Your transitions were always impeccably planned, and you really built around the theme of what you were doing. So can you first dig into the attendance thing, and then let's talk about your planning process for transitions, if you would.
Sure. One of my goals, like, over the past few years, was to try and get my kids active as soon as they step foot in that door, because I only get to see them for 40 minutes for once a cycle, so time's really limited. So I was just trying to think of some ways to get them come in, take attendance, get moving right away. So last year I started something called Plagnets. Basically, it's a magnet, but it has a plicker on it, and plickers you can scan to gain some insight. Basically, the kids can assess themselves and how well they're doing in class, and I can scan it with my iPad and I get the results instantly. On the one side of that magnet, I have numbers, and so each student has a classroom number. So when they come to phys ed, they just come in, they go to the whiteboard, this magnetic whiteboard with these Plagnets on them, and they just flip their number over. So I don't actually have to have them sit in squads and waste time doing that. I just look at the board during their instant activity, and if that number isn't flipped, I know that student's not here. So that was a really quick way for me to do it. And then I'm in the process of right now trying to teach some quick and easy instant activities where I just have it posted right outside the door. So they come in, they take attendance, they do the instant activity that I've taught them. And I'll give a shout out to Sam Ellis and Dustin Casper from last year at PSAHPERD. They did a presentation called Thrive in 5, where they just did a bunch of easy instant activities that could be done in 5 minutes, and that they taught their kids in the beginning of the year, and they would just come in and do them. So it's kind of inspired by that, from that, and that's kind of what I've been doing. It just maximizes the time that the kids have. As far as transitions go, definitely transitions, are super important, because if you take too long for your transition. You're going to have kids talking, kids off task. I've learned that through experience through my 10 years of teaching. You got to be quick with your transitions. You got to plan them in advance. And a lot of times when I'm figuring out what activities I want to do, I'm trying to figure out how can I transition this activity to this one. There's no really set way I do it. I just try to think, what's the easiest way to do it. If there's not an easy way to do it, I just don't do that activity, because I really want to make sure that the transition's easy. A lot of times I will try to set up the gym for almost all the activities, and they just have a little cleanup or a little adjustment from one activity to the next.
So you would actually skip good activities that you might enjoy because it doesn't fit your transition.
Yeah, or I'll save it for a different lesson where it might fit in a little bit better. Yeah, so that's something that I do that kind of works well. I'm just trying to figure out what flows and what makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, I don't force it and don't do it.
Well, that's good, because I think, from watching young teachers over the years, I think one of the things where a lesson can fall apart fast, and even for somebody who's experienced that's had that happen, it's usually in the transition period, especially with the little ones, because they're already excited. Like you mentioned, you're a celebrity, and if you're not yet, you will be a celebrity once they get to know you, I'm sure. So that's pretty interesting.
Right, and you got to be really clear with your expectations and really, dumb it down for them, and even just quickly, show it to them so they know what to do. A lot of times I'll even bring them in real quick so they're not by all the equipment distracted. I'll bring them in real quick, show them what to do. They go do it, and we move right into the next activity.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Chance, I'd like to spend a little time for the people that are coming to convention and kind of excited by what they're hearing, and talk a little bit about what we'll see, and maybe you can give us a little taste. I know you're presenting two. One's on instant activities using health concepts in the gym, and the other one is on literacy and math. And I think you have a partner in each one of those. So maybe let's start with the health concepts activity session, because I think your partner in that one's a pretty special person in your life. If you can tell us a little bit about her and some of the stuff we'll get to see in that.
Yeah. So the first one I'll be presenting is on Friday. I believe it's Friday afternoon. I don't know the exact time.
Scheduled on the app.
It's teaching health education through physical activity, and so I'm going to be doing this with my wife. We met at Westchester, awesome. And she currently teaches health and phys ed in Mechanicsburg School District. So my previous district, I kind of had a unique situation where I taught 3rd and 5th grade health in a classroom, which I think is pretty rare for elementary schools to have actual specific health classes and health curriculum. So this was actually a couple years ago at one of the conventions. I can't remember their names, but they were some of the phys ed teachers from North Allegheny, and it was
leads that district.
Yeah,
Chris Jackson's up there. He's an elementary teacher.
I think it was Chris, and they did a session, and they had some really fun health games. One of them was called Fat Busters, where they get tagged by an unhealthy food, they gain a fat cell, and then you can go to the gym or the fitness center and exercise and work off those fat cells. And then again, Sam Ellis and Dustin Casper, they've done ones with nutrition. Fruit Ninja was a really fun one that I learned in the past. And so when I began to start adding these fun health games in that were really more like phys ed games, the kids loved it. And they would come to health class and ask, "Are we playing a game today? Are we playing a game today?" And in the beginning, I couldn't always turn it into a game that involved a lot of physical activity. But that kind of motivated me over the years, and the more I tried to make it more fun for them, because they're not gonna remember things by sitting down and reading out of a book or doing a worksheet. They're gonna remember the fun things, the experiences, and still to this day, I'll even have kids that I taught many years ago tell me their favorite health activity was when we did the digestive system. I created that body system in the classroom, and they ended up pooping at the end into the toilet, which was a bucket. And I just recently last year transitioned into there was a potato. It was called Poop the Potato. So they had to squeeze a potato between their legs and travel through the large intestine, and then they would squat down and poop it into the bucket. We might do that at the conference. So
that one we'll have to get Twitter going on that.
That is a fun one. And ironically, after that health class, the 5th graders had to write like their most memorable experience in elementary school, like for the yearbook. And like 50% of the kids, the 5th grade teacher came down and told me, she's like so many of these kids wrote down poop the potato was their favorite elementary, activity. So I know it's funny, but those are the things that they remember.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where I am with the health stuff. You mentioned you saw something on Twitter that looked like vacuum cleaners. That was actually, I just posted that recently. They were grocery carts.
Oh, okay.
It was a scooter, and you take 2 noodles and you put them inside the handles, which is the grocery cart. They go out and go shopping for different foods from the 5 different food groups, and then teach them about that and trying to make sure they're getting a variety of the food groups.
Yeah.
So they enjoyed that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we can't wait to see that in your book someday when you're ready to publish all this stuff. So that's awesome. So next one that you're going to be presenting at convention, which talks about math and literacy and incorporating that into physical activity. And that's always one from interviewing teachers a lot. I'll hear in interviews, kids are like, oh yeah, let's talk about math, and we put numbers on the floor and blah, blah, blah. So can you talk a little bit about how you were doing that and who you're doing that with? Because I think you have a co-presenter with that as well.
Yeah, for that session is on Saturday, I think around 11:30. I'm doing that session with Doug Nolt. I graduated with Doug from Westchester. We're good friends there. He teaches at Donegal in Lancaster County, and he teaches K through 2. And I'll start by saying that, as a phys ed teacher, my main goal is to give them physical activity. This session isn't going to be about sitting down and, doing writing type stuff. It's things that you can incorporate into a physical activity where you're just kind of reinforcing concepts where they might still be working on one of their skills in phys ed or being active. So I think that's, for me, that's big, is that if I'm doing literacy and math, it can't be taking away from the physical activity part of it. It's got to just be kind of adding to it. One thing that I've done is contact the elementary teachers and get a list of sight words. I'm in the process of doing that right now. Get a list of the sight words and just laminate them, put them on cards, and then I can have them for any activities that I need throughout the year, whether it's working on passing and saying a letter every time you pass. We're doing the underhand throw right now. So putting out letters and having them underhand tossed to a spot that has a letter underneath. They bring the letters back and try to create some type of words if they can. As far as math go, dice. I feel like dice are essential to elementary phys ed teachers. I just got a whole bunch from the dollar store, and you can use those so easily to help have the kids add or subtract or multiply. So if you come out to that session, there's a lot of different ideas that I have that you can learn about, and will be math and literacy. It will be elementary based as well, because I teach K through 5, and my friend Doug, he teaches K through 2.
Yeah. And I will tell you, from having, I don't often get a chance to see too many of the guests, but I've seen Chance many, many times, and there's very few that are better than him. He's one of the top teachers you'll ever see in elementary. So I guarantee you're going to learn a lot from this. So thanks for being with us tonight, Chance. And one more segment I want to run through. This one kind of, I don't know if any of you out there have seen that show Inside the Actors Studio, but at the end of each interview, James Lipton, the host, would always come up and he would go through something called the pivot questionnaire, and some of the things would be, what's your favorite word, what's your least favorite word, your favorite curse word. Well, Chance, we're not going to ask any of those questions tonight, because we probably shouldn't be asking teachers what their favorite curse word is live on the air. Unless you want to tell us. Any chance? Maybe not tonight. Well, what we'll do is we're going to call this Twitter advice. So we're going to run through 5 things, and basically in 280 characters or less, just off the cuff, quick answers. give us an idea what you think of this. So you ready to give this a shot?
Ready to go.
All right. So the first one is one thing that you need to do to become a great teacher.
I would say never stop learning. So continue to grow professionally, whether it's, being involved by going to PSAHPERD. I've learned so many things. That's one of the things. Every year I look forward to going to that. Being on Twitter, using any online resources. I think now easily probably 75% of the stuff I do comes from Twitter. Open Phys Ed is a really great resource that I've used a lot from as well. So just never stop learning and keep utilizing those resources.
All right. What is the most important learning that kids need to learn in phys ed? So when they leave phys ed, what's the most important learning that you think they need to take with them?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is just to make physical activity fun for them, and don't make it unfun for them, because they're going to be less likely to do it outside of your class. So we don't see them enough to really make them proficient in all of these different skills. I should say, at least in my district, some schools might get to see them more often, but we can expose them to many different physical activities, and we make it fun for them. They're more likely to go out and do it on their own. And I think that's kind of our goal as phys ed teachers. Give them opportunities.
All right. Sorry, it's getting noisy in the background. I'm actually doing this from a restaurant my son is playing music at tonight, so my apologies if there's noise in the background. All right, so the next one, favorite educators on Twitter.
Jimmy Casas is definitely one. A lot of stuff I retweet or I like from him on Twitter. George Kuros, who we just got to see at CV, is a great innovator.
An amazing day.
Yeah, it was awesome. Some phys ed people that I like to follow. Mike Graham, Jason Leach, Ben Perillo. They're all some really good ones to get some phys ed ideas from.
You could probably find those under your followers too. Chance on Twitter, you can grab those Twitter addresses right from the people he follows.
Yep.
All right, so two more. Next one, best advice you ever gotten, and who gave it to you?
I'm just gonna say my parents. Just be kind, be prepared, and work hard. I don't know if they told me all of those at one time, but I just think over the course of them being my parents. I mean, that's just advice for life, but advice for being a teacher too. Be kind. You want to be prepared, and work hard, and everything will work out.
All right. Someday we all walk out of the gym for the last time. What do you want the epitaph on your gym door to say?
I want it to say, "Now let's get moving." Because that's what I'm all about. When they step foot in that gym, I want them moving right away. So when I'm gone, when I'm not around, I want them to just keep on moving.
Well, Chance, thank you so much for being a part of this season of the MOOC and the convention preview. And I can't wait to actually get a chance to sit down and watch you at convention and do your thing. And I'm going to brag just a little bit. I'm so glad that you're a part of our district, and I get to see you now on a regular basis, because we are better for having you.
Well, thank you for those compliments. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And for those of you that enjoyed what you heard tonight, Chance will be doing a Friday session and a Saturday session. The sessions are in the app. I put the last names of the presenters in next to the titles, so you can actually set your schedule up now if you're registered for convention. And we'll look forward to seeing you. We're going to move to Monday nights. We didn't do Monday this week because it was Columbus Day. We're going to move to Monday nights, and our next one will be Monday night at 8 p.m. So watch Twitter and watch the email announcements coming out. And Chance, thanks again for being with us tonight. And good luck with baby number 2.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Man. See you.
See you.